Hello, cheapskaters. Let me get my breath. Welcome to our channel. My name's Kath and I am the creator of the Cheapskates Club, where our goal is to live life debt-free, cashed up and laughing. Our new show routine goes something like this. I have a quick chat at the beginning just to give everyone time to log on, catch up with daylight saving time change. Then I'll go through the show topic for tonight, and that's the shelf life of your preserved foods. And then if you need to leave us, that's fine. If not, we're happy for you to join us, to stay on, and we'll keep the conversation going for a while. Now, I know some folk like to get in, get it over with and go, and others just like to keep chatting and sharing and bouncing ideas off each other. It was a lot of fun last week. I absolutely enjoyed it. I know a lot of you did too, because I've had the comments, which was really nice. So I thought this new way works. It seems to suit just about everyone, and honestly, that's the best I can do. I will never please everyone, much and all as I would love to be able to. Okay, so how many viewers do we have now? Let me see, 30. Well done, and we're only 2 minutes in. Okay, let me zip up. Yvonne was first. Hi, Yvonne. Hello, Kylie. Hello, Beverly. Estelle is tired. I know the feeling, sweetheart. And she needs to hang some washing. Oh, yep. Get it out early. It'll dry tomorrow, no problem. Hello, Mary. Hello, Michelle. Greg Evans. Yes, the week does come around fast. Hello, Rosalie. How you going? Oh, Yvonne, you're in Melbourne. Oh, cool. Welcome. That's lovely. Well, I hope we can give you some hints to stretch your dollars. That's what we're all about, isn't it? And that's exactly what we need to be doing right now. More important than ever before, I am sure. Washing's the last job of the day. Good. Leftover dinner sounds really good, Estelle. I don't mind leftovers. Hello, Julie. Hello, Jane. Maybe daylight savings made you early, Jane. Hello, Tegan. Mrs. Dilligat. There goes my phone. Sorry, guys, if you don't mind, I do have to check it because we've got some stuff going on. I will only be a second. I'm trying hard not to. Okay, thank you. Sorry. I try really hard to not even have my phone turned on, but I'm on my own tonight and we've got stuff going on in the family, so I wanted to keep it close. You're in a non-daylight saving state. I feel for you. I really do. I absolutely love daylight savings. Hello, Delaney. Hello, Evelyn. Thank you, Jane. I was so glad Hannah was I was finally able to sit long enough and let her tug on my hair without me screeching out of the chair to get it cut. Wayne loves my hair long. I don't mind it. When it's long enough that I can tie it back, I am perfectly happy as long as it's off my face. But I can't look after it because I can't stand having my head touched at the moment. I've got little things all over my scalp and they just hurt if they get caught in a comb or the brush or your fingernail while you're shampooing. So long hair is a bit of a trial. All that to say, thank you so much. Hello, Cheryl. Oh, no. Oh, well, you know, it happens to everyone. Maybe it's just me. I did a batch of kidney beans, taco beans, a couple of weeks ago. First batch was fine. Double cantaloupe, first batch was fine. Second round, 2 out of the 17 jars in that batch, 2 of them didn't seal. No idea why. Absolutely no idea why. I mark those lids not to be used for pressure canning, so they're in the vacuum sealing pile. But it's really annoying. And I was watching or listening or chatting to someone just this afternoon, and they use the Tatler seals, Tatler lids, which are the reusable ones with the rubber gaskets. And they found 2 jars, both of meat, unfortunately, that hadn't sealed, but they didn't catch it. And of course, they'd been sitting on the shelf and now they were ruined. At least I caught the beans in time to be able to put them in the fridge and use them. It is number 31s too. Oh no. Are they are the 31s out of your stash that you got earlier this year, that big stash? Just asking because I'm curious, because I'm sticky beak, you know. It is a waste of time, effort and money. I think when our canning fails and we don't catch it, or our preserving fails and we don't catch it, the cost of the food is a bit of an issue for me, but it's more the effort, the time, because it is a lot of work to can food. Oh. Thank you, Greg Evans. Hello, Kelly. Hello, Utah. Hi, Emma. And thank you, Delaney. Delaney is our moderator tonight, so be nice to her. And as she says, please, if you've got questions, put them in capitals, and I will come back at the end of the show and go through them. This chat that I'm looking at now is flickering all the time, so I'm up and downing to try and keep up with it. If your questions stand out, then I can catch them for you. Hello, Di. You're only a couple of minutes late, Beverly. We haven't really started yet. Hello, Aradia. Hello, Sue. Centerist. Here we go. I want to do a yearly shop, but I'm not sure where I'll store everything. The only place I have is my 6-metre square laundry with an IKEA cupboard and a Bunnings shelf. Garage gets hot. I don't store food in the garage. I don't store anything in the garage except our tools. Yeah, and some camping gear. Because it just gets, if you're in Australia, even in Tassie, the garage gets hot in summer. So I don't use, I'll come back to that. Let me jot down a note. Where did I put that piece of paper I just had? I had a piece of paper in my hand as I sat down. Now it's gone. Well, let's just get another one, shall we? Let's just get another one. Where to store? You don't need nearly as much room as you think you do. You truly don't. If you're an ingredients shopper, you don't need nearly as much room as you think you do. Yeah, if my hair was long enough to braid, put it in a ponytail, tied up in a bun, clip it up, I am fine. I don't mind wearing it long, but I can't look after it at the moment. Oh, okay. Thanks, Cheryl. You'll really enjoy those jars when you get them. Collie had a haircut. Yeah. From the waist to the back. Yeah. Heavy hair and migraines don't mix. While Hannah was cutting my hair, I could actually feel it getting lighter. And I did say, I wonder if that will help the headaches. And there's the washing done. Well, that must be our cue to start then, Estelle. You can enjoy your leftover dinner while we get going. Okay, now I think we've had 10 minutes, so that's plenty of time for everyone to catch up. Anyone that's late can always watch us on the replay. So let's get started. Bottling, canning, dehydrating, vacuum sealing, freezing foods, things we do that allow them to stay tasty and fresh for extended periods of time. We all like to do it. Now, they're not going to last forever. Those foods are not going to last forever. And if you're not using preservatives and the advanced techniques that are used in preserving the store-bought foods, you know, all the additives they add to them in the processing, for even canning, whatever, you just can't expect the foods that you've preserved at home to retain their taste, their texture, their colour, their freshness, as long as the commercial ones do. But we can expect them to last a good long while. So that's where knowing the shelf life of each item that you preserve is going to help you, because you can plan accordingly. So here's a really quick overview of, or rundown perhaps, of the basics. The things you preserve yourself, whether it's bottled, Fowler's Way in a water bath, or pressure canned, or dehydrated, or freeze dried, or smoked, or frozen, or stored in mylar bags, will last a long time. But it won't always keep its first grade quality. It'll still last a long time though, and if food is properly preserved, it won't ever go off. It won't ever go bad. But it does lose quality over time. It might change colour, it could change texture, it might soften. In the case of fruits, I know I've got some apricots over there that they're starting to look like they're going a bit mushy. Or if you've got beans and lentils, they get hard. They don't get soft, they get hard. The older they are, the harder they are. So we need to know this, because we preserve food to save money and to avoid food waste, and to save time in meal prep, and to avoid hunger during lean times. So we always want the food we preserve to be the best we can, or be the best we can be the best it can be. And that means we need to know how long it's going to keep that optimal quality when it's on the pantry shelf or in your stockpile. So with dehydrated foods, because that's a pretty easy thing to do, dehydrated foods, they will keep almost indefinitely. But over time, they do lose quality. And like I said, things like beans and lentils get really, really hard. If you've ever tried to cook with beans that are 10 or 15 years old, you will know just how hard they can be. No amount of soaking, of pressure cooking, of boiling, of treating them with bicarb will soften them back to their original state. It just doesn't happen. They're still edible. They're just not that nice soft texture that we are used to our beans being, the kidney beans, the navy beans, the broad beans being. But if you have them stored in mylar bags like I've got, and I think there's a video of me packing some of them, or you vac seal them in jars and you keep them in a dark cupboard, then they're going to be absolutely perfectly good for at least 5 years on your shelf. They won't be too hard after 5 years. You'll need to soak them. You might need to pressure cook them before you use them, but they will still be good and edible, and they will soften. Now, if you want to keep them a bit longer, you can pressure can them. And beans need to be pressure canned rather than water bath, because they're a low acid food. And if you pressure can them, they're good and ready to use for a lot longer. I know the official recommendation is no more than 2 years, but if they're kept dark and cool, 5 years minimum before you'll see a quality change in them. And that quality change just shows that they're getting a bit old, and it might encourage you to use them. Keeping canned beans on the shelf saves a lot of soaking and boiling, because they're ready to open and use. You just empty that jar straight into your soup or your casserole or your chili or your taco mix, or you just get a spoon and dig in. You can drain it. Now, this is what I like to do. If I do, I call them taco beans, because I put the taco spices in the jar with the kidney beans. So if you drain it, and then you add a little bit of chopped onion, a little bit of diced celery, a little French or Italian dressing, makes a really nice bean salad. Now, you don't have to wait till they're 5 years old to do that. You can do that anytime. But I just say, it makes a really nice bean salad. Put on some lettuce, or if I'm in the mood and I've been doing sprouts, that over sprouts is really good. Don't know what it is, but it's really, really good. I can a lot of meat. That's your beans covered. And I'm sort of thinking of the things that mostly I preserve, because I preserve ingredients more than ready-mades. So you might not use beans, in which case you can skip this bit. But meat, I can a lot of meat. I can a lot of mince. I do corned beef, and I do chicken. They're the three that I do the most of. Sometimes I will do, if I can get it, casserole meat, which might be gravy beef or chuck steak or similar to that. I don't often do the expensive cuts because they're expensive. But if you pressure can gravy beef, or what they call chuck steak or casserole steak, it comes out just as good as an expensive cut. Now, this is a pint jar that I did. Let me see. I don't know if you'll be able to read that. It says 0923. So this was a jar I did September 23. I always date them so that I know. Now, you might notice too, there's a bit of water in there, and that is just water. I add water to it, but there's the tiniest little bit of fat. Tiniest little bit of fat. I don't like fat in my meat, so I'm a bit of a pain when it comes to canning, especially the mince, because I rinse it and rinse it and rinse it and rinse it some more to get all that fat off before I pressure can it. A little fat cap is fine, really. It's not going to make too much difference. I just don't like it. Have I got a video on canning corned beef? No, but I could do one. It's pretty much the same as ugly chicken, just doing corned beef instead. So get your piece of corned beef, cut as much fat off it as you can, cut it into chunks, pack it into your jars, put the lid on, put the ring on, put it into the canner, and it's meat. So 75 minutes, 4 pints, 90 minutes, 4 quarts. And that's it. It's really, 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 really easy to do. And I usually rinse the corned beef when it comes out of the packet. And if I was going to do it in a slow cooker, then I add vinegar, I add brown sugar, I add mustard, I throw in some vinegar, brown sugar, mustard. I was going to say cloves, but it's not cloves. Anyway, something else gone out of my mind. But I throw that in with it too. But when I'm canning it for the shelf, cut as much of the fat off as you can, cut it into chunks, pack it into your jars, pack it down really, really well, as you would for ugly chicken. Put the lid on. You don't add raw pack. Cold raw pack has no fluid added to it. Lid on, ring on, and can it. It's really, really easy. Comes out and it is delicious. It is so, so good. Now you can do gravy beef, chuck steak the same way. Cut the fat off, pack it in, raw pack it in, and it's pulled beef pretty much. You can tear it apart with a fork when it comes out of the jar. It is delicious, and it will make its own broth. It will make its own gravy. With the corned beef, I don't use it because it's a bit salty, but when I do the gravy beef, I save that liquid to make the gravy. It is delicious. Peppercorns, thank you, Mary. I told you, we've got a lot going on here, and my thank you, Estelle. Yeah. No, Jane, I've never put bay leaves in corned beef. I could try it though. Anyway, So that's all I do. That's all I do. And again, pint jars are 75 minutes and quarts are 90. I'm moving more to the pints now that our family shrunk just a little, only by one and only for some of the time, but the pint jars are just a bit easier. And then even when we go away, if it's just Wayne and I, taking a pint jar means we get 2 meals out of it. It's easy. Okay. Yeah, peppercorns. Thank you. Okay. To make fats shelf stable is a process, Estelle. Now, you can turn your butter. Butter can become shelf stable, but you actually turn it into ghee. So that means you have to clarify it. To make an animal fat shelf stable, you need to clarify it. It's quite a process. It takes a while, and you do need to be patient, but it can be done. I know a lot of people will say that you just melt your butter, pour it into a jar, and then hot water bath it, and it will be shelf stable. Not quite. That's not quite the process. You want to make your fat shelf stable, you need to remove the milk solids, which is you clarify it so that you're left with just the ghee. Yeah, okay. All right, now go back to my place, find my notes. I stopped. These jars, these will be good they will keep peak quality for easily 2 years. And I say that easily, or about 2 years, because it really, really depends on how it's stored, where you store it. See, I don't put it in the garage. The temperature, if it's blazing hot or freezing cold, if it gets moved around a lot, once it's put on the shelf in my cupboard, tends to stay there until it's time for it to come out again. There's lots of variables, much like there is for anything else. There's lots of variables for home canned meat. And I've lost my notes. Let me just go back. Sorry, guys. What am I on to? I'm on to YouTube. And I'm on to... Oh, there's my notes. Okay. All right. Wonder why that didn't. Sorry, I can't find my notes. All right. Making note now. If some of you watched the pantry tour that I did, and I showed you a cupboard that I have that I keep herbs and spices in on the top shelf, and then the other 3 shelves are all my canned or pressure canned or water bathed proteins in that cupboard, mostly proteins, simply because moderation. Here we go. Sorry. I can put it up so I can read it. It would help, wouldn't it? I have some jars that are older than that. I have some jars. We opened a jar of ugly chicken from 2020. I think it was January or February 2020. A while ago, and it was fine. Like Tegan said, it is just the way it works. It was really, really good. Nobody noticed any difference. The top little piece had started to go dark, but it was still edible. It was still sealed. It was still edible. There's one of these jars, there was a bit of siphoning in this, so the top of the meat's going dark. It's still good to eat. in general, the official guide says that most bottled or canned food, pressure canned foods that are stored properly should be consumed within a year. It also goes on to say that, you know, foods that are low in acid may not last that long. Foods that are especially high in acid might keep up to 18 months, and canned fruit juice, if you've done it properly, could last up to 3 years. Now, I'm not a rebel when it comes to food storage and food preservation, but those are really, really conservative time frames. And for properly canned or water bathed food, you should expect 2 years at a minimum. Now, I've eaten peaches that were over 15 years old, and they were delicious. They were a little dark, they were soft. They'd been bottled in the Fowler's Vicola way, and they were stored in a cool, dark cupboard, and they went really well with ice cream. And I don't know whether it was because they were done the old-fashioned way in a full sugar syrup, and they were so delicious. Over time, the syrup had actually developed the peach flavour, but they were perfectly fine. So I'm not telling you to ignore official recommendations, but use your common sense. Honestly, use your common sense. Use your eyes, use your nose, use your taste buds. If it looks okay, if it smells okay, if you taste it and it tastes fine, if it's not tingly on your tongue or anything, it should be fine. And if you are going to cook it and you bring it up to a boil and you let it boil for at least 10 minutes, it should kill any bug that's lingering in there anyway. So, you know, again, I'm not a rebel, and I take food safety, especially for the preserved foods, really seriously, because I do not want to be responsible for making anyone sick. Food poisoning is not pretty. Botulism kills. So I don't want to do that. But you have to use your common sense. You just have to. And you have to be smart about it. And if you're not sure, ask. Ask on Cheapskates Chatter. That's our Facebook group. If you're not a member, it's really easy. You go to Facebook, type in Cheapskates Chatter. There's a question and group rules. You have to answer the question. You have to agree to group rules. And we welcome you with open arms. We love to have new people to talk to. Ask someone, because there are lots of people who are far more experienced in this than I am that can help you. Just use your common sense and don't be afraid to ask. Seriously, someone asked a question on another group tonight, and the answer was, well, I'm so sick of answering this question. First of all, the person was new to the subject, and had asked because she genuinely didn't know. That was really rude. I would hope we don't do that on Cheapskates Chatter, because there's no such thing as a dumb question. Okay, moving on. Unless let me go back. All right. Okay. Dried foods, dehydrated foods. So when it comes to storing dried food, there's 4 factors that can significantly affect shelf life. Now, there's temperature, moisture, oxygen, and light. The lower the levels of these 4 things, the longer you can expect your dried foods to last, to maintain peak quality. Now, I use vacuum sealed bags, I use vacuum sealed jars, I use Mylar bags, I use just ordinary pantry jars to store dehydrated food, because they all give me options for extending the shelf life of what I've got. Now, pantry jars like this, this is pantry jar, it's just a Makona jar. See? It has shredded dried onion in it. Okay? Just a shredded dried onion. Easy. I go through a lot of that. So it doesn't have to sit on the shelf for years. that'll be gone in a couple of months, easily gone in a couple of months. So there's no need to worry about anything other than making sure it's airtight. It is. So that's fine for that. Pantry jars give me, the shortest shelf life. But for things that we go through quickly, up to 12 months, they are perfect. Now, the Mylar bags, they're for things that I'd like to keep shelf stable for longer, up to 20 years. Though I can tell you now that I am not stockpiling and building my pantry for 20 years. I do not want it to last that long. But I do have some long-term pantry items in my 5-year pantry, we call it. And it's things like beans that I got really, really, really cheap. So we got a lot of beans, more than we would eat in a couple of years. They've gone out in Mylar into the buckets so that they can be stored properly. The other thing I use is these. Now, this is dehydrated peas, corn and carrots, because I'm trying to get away from freezer. So peas, corn and carrots, put them through the dehydrator, and this little canister has a little thingy doobie. It's got a gasket around the rim. It's got a little, I've forgotten what that's called, valve, and it's vacuum sealed. Has a tool that fits on the top and just a hand tool, pump, 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 sucks the air out, vacuum seals it. Now, for things like this, the peas, corn, carrots that I use fairly often, probably 2 or 3 times a week, I'm in this canister for different things. Open the canister, take out what we need, put the lid back on, vacuum seal it again, just to keep it fresh. Because remember, oxygen, not good for dehydrated foods. It works well. I've got an attachment to my food saver for vacuum sealing jars. That's what I do for things that are going to be kept for longer, that I'm not going to be into on a regular basis, mainly because it's a pain to get the food saver out and put the attachment on, fiddle around with it. Where this little plunger on this is easy. Who said this? I just saw. I got these off Amazon, sets of them. Set of 3 square ones, and I've got some taller, skinnier ones. Trina, they weren't cheap, but they weren't expensive. But they're so good, and they come with the little thing, the little plunger thing, so they work really well. Who's got a basement? Annabelle used to have a basement. I was so jealous. Basement, yes, root cellar, a basement will be wonderful. Okay, how long does plain flour and self-raising flour pass? Okay, if it's stored properly, it will keep forever, but it will lose quality like everything does. And with your self-raising flour, you might find that you might need to add a little baking powder to it. You also need to remember that flour is from a grain, so that even though we don't see it, we can't taste it or feel it, there will be a little bit of residual oil in there, and if it's not stored properly, it will go rancid. So keep it in airtight containers, keep it dark, keep it cool, and it's fine. And I don't know that flour has a use by, it has a best before. Big difference between use bys and best befores. I don't even look at the date, honestly. Should I confess this? I don't look at the dates. The dates mean nothing. They are a marketing ploy to get you to waste your money, waste your food, waste your time. We didn't have, now, it's going to sound really, where's Joy? She can lend me a tinfoil hat. We didn't have dates like this when I was a little girl and nobody died. No. Use your common sense. Use your common sense. I have I was going to say a small packet. I've got about 12 kilos of self-raising flour in the pantry. Mostly I try to buy plain flour and baking powder. And even then, I don't buy a lot of baking powder because I buy the one from the health food shop that's got no aluminium or anything in it. And it's expensive, but I could just as easily make it with bicarb and cream of tartar and bicarb. Yes. So, and that the instructions, the measurements are on the Cheapskates Club website for that if I wanted to. It's just one less thing to worry about storing. It's one less thing to worry about buying. And I tend to use more plain flour than anything else at the moment because we're doing lots of bread and focaccias. Yeah, there you go. Annabelle said the taller ones will seal a jar inside of them. So if you've got a small screw top jar, pretend this is a screw top jar, you put it in one of those containers, put your lid on, put the lid on the container, pretend the peas are the jar, put your pump attachment on, pump, 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 pump. You'll hear the ping as it seals. I've not seen them at Aldi Estelle, so I don't know. I have no idea. Well, I like them because, yeah, it saves jars, saves bags, saves vacuum sealing bags, but it's all one thing. And we go through a lot of these. I use peas, corn, carrots. That's sort of my standard. Oh my gosh, I need to bulk out this stew. In goes some peas, corn, carrots. I need to add some nutrition to the spaghetti sauce. In go the peas, corn, carrots. My kids think peas, corn, and carrots go in every dish. If they get a meal without peas, corn, and carrots in it, there's something wrong. They don't understand it. Yeah, flour. Annabelle puts flour in tins. No idea how old it is. Okay. Is cheap flour as good as expensive flour? In Australia, we don't import sugar and we don't import a lot of flour. So if you are paying a lot of money for a pretty packet, check where it's from and then check where your generic is from. Flour's flour, sugar's sugar. Paying the money for the different coloured writing or the box instead of the paper packet or whatever, if you want to do that, you go right ahead and do it. But it's almost double the price per kilo. I've got better things to do with my money, much better things to do with my money. So I just buy the cheapest flour, and I don't buy bread flour either. Really annoys me when people will say you have to have bread flour to make bread. No, you don't. You need plain flour and yeast and water and sugar to make bread. Pinch of salt doesn't go astray. Little oil if you want to. If you are worried about your flour not being strong enough to hold a crumb for your bread, add 1 teaspoon of gluten flour per cup of plain flour. And you can get gluten flour at your supermarket and health food aisle or from the health food store. I buy it in 10 kilo lots, so I've always got it, but I don't add it to my bread mix. I just use plain Aldi, or I think the flour we're using at the moment is Gem of the West, which is a brand, but it was cheap at Aldi, and when it was cheap at Aldi, it was actually cheaper than the Aldi flour. So flour is flour and sugar is sugar in Australia. Same when I'm making pasta. Sorry if you're a pasta making expert. I most definitely am not, but I just use plain flour. I use plain flour to make my pasta. Turns out okay, tastes okay, cooks up nicely. So I years ago, I didn't have the money to buy the different flours, so I made do. These days, I know I don't need to spend the money to buy the different flours because what I make works with what I use. Yeah, use by and best before are very different things. Yep, my yeast goes in the freezer. I have it in the chest freezer. There's a basket on the side that's got yeast in. Keeps really, really well. When I bring it out, I bring out one packet at a time, put it in a Tupperware container and keep it in the fridge. Sugar in a pouring carton. No, not found that. Okay. What do I use gluten flour for? I use gluten flour, and I was making notes about this today because I was thinking of videos to do. I use gluten flour to make a savoury. I use gluten flour to make mock lamb. I use gluten flour to make mock schnitzels. I use gluten flour. Well, they're pretty much the main things I use it for. There's a roast that I do that I use gluten flour for. If you don't have a gluten allergy, gluten flour is a really versatile ingredient to have in your pantry. Hi, Vicky. And yes, we are well. Tablespoon of gluten flour to 1 cup of plain flour. I've never used a tablespoon of gluten flour, but doesn't matter. Okay, let's get back to this because we're running out of time. Right, so the official consensus is that under optimal conditions, dried fruits will keep for a year. Dried vegetables will last about 6 months. I have to say dried fruit keeps much, much longer. It will start to candy, but it can still be used. It's still good. It's not off. It's not bad. A little soak in boiling water, or you can soak it overnight in fruit juice. It will plump it up so that it's not dried, because it will, the longer it sits, the more it will dehydrate. But it is still perfectly good to use, to eat, to consume. Dried vegetables, the same. They keep just about forever, a bit like your beans, and they keep much, much longer than 6 months. But they will lose colour, they will fade a little bit. And with any of these foods, after 10 years, they might have lost a little bit of nutrition. Nutrients might not be as, up there as they were when they were fresh. Look, I dehydrate celery, I dehydrate onion, carrot, pumpkin, sweet potato, tomato, zucchini, peas, corn, silver beet. What else? Tomatoes, apricots. I said tomatoes. Peaches, plums, apples, pineapple, mango. I'll throw herbs in to the dehydrated veggie column. They're all things that I use regularly, so they're kept in jars on the shelf, just back-sealed jars on the shelf. And I could say they don't really last because we use them up. They are rarely there for longer than a year. If I'm looking, we're coming into peak preserving season, moving into it anyway, so I will be looking for fruit. I will be looking for cases of mangoes, cases of pineapple, apricots, peaches, pears. Dehydrated pears are delicious. plums, if they come down in price and cheap enough, they are all really good to dehydrate. But I usually just do enough to get me to the next season. So I don't want to keep them for too long. They don't keep for too long on our shelf. They get used. This year though, the way things are, I might be looking to do a bit more. I put them in the vacuum sealed jars because they're not something I'm in and out of every day. And really the jars are easy to reseal after they've been opened. I do have, hello Lacey dog, I do have a hand pump for my jars to seal my jars as well as the food saver, depending on how well my hands are working, which one I'll use. But honestly, I love having dried fruit and veggies on hand. Handful of veggies into a pot of stock. I can throw in some peas, corn, carrots, some onions, some celery, potato. It's instant soup. Tomato, instant tomato soup. It is so, so good. So good and so handy. And they keep for a very long time. To me, using the guidelines is important. Date everything. Write your date on it so that you know when you put it on your shelf. But that just helps. So you can look at it and go, oh, 2023. Oh, it's only 2050 now. That's still good. And not be too worried about it. It helps when you're planning, you're preserving for the next year so that you know how much you've got on the shelf, how long it's been there, so you know how much more that you need to add to the shelf. That's really all the dates do for me. They just help me know how much I'm using, how much I'm going through, how long it's been there. You know, I found some mango the other day. Now, I'm the only one that eats it, so I don't need to do 2 flats of mango this year. One will be more than enough for just me, unless I do. Oh, I found the recipe really good mango salsa. So I might do some of that too. But they're just dates, especially with your dehydrated foods. I love dehydrated foods because they come camping with us. They are so easy. They don't need refrigeration. They're easy to cook. You can bundle I can put a handful of peas, corn, carrots, a handful of dried onion, and a handful of dried mince, because yes, I do dry mince, into a pot and add some water and let it cook for a while, and then add some gravy, and we've got stew. It's really easy, really easy. If you want to keep your veggies longer, then I would suggest packing them in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. You can get those off Amazon. They're a bit pricey, but if you want to keep things long term, then that's what you do. It's worth it. It's worth it. If you were to get, a lot of something and you knew you weren't going to use it for a couple of years, it might be worth investing in some Mylar bags and some O2 absorbers and packaging it up. Now, dried meats. I just mentioned dried mince. Technically, again, I keep saying I'm not a rebel when it comes to food preserving, but I think I might be. Technically, you shouldn't dehydrate meat. It could be smoked and preserved that way and dehydrated, or it can be freeze-dried, but just in your regular dehydrator it's not approved. It's not an approved method. Now, I only do mince, but, and even then they say the official time frame is about 6 months and you have to keep it in the fridge. Well, I don't keep it in the fridge. I keep it in a vac sealed jar or in a bag, and it stays in the cupboard so it's dark and cool. We go through it fairly quickly because it's sort of a pantry staple when we travel. But I'd say I'd be happy to use it within, say 12 months without a problem. The issue with dehydrating meats is the fat, because fat doesn't actually completely dehydrate. There will always be a small amount there and it goes rancid. That's the problem with dehydrating your meat. But again, because I'm such a fiend on getting rid of it, I rinse it and rinse it and rinse it under hot water, and I pour the boiling kettle over it 3 or 4 times, give it a good mix round in the colander and let it dry, pat it with paper towel to get the fat off, and then I will put it in the dehydrator. It's pretty easy to do, really. You do need to cook it first before you dehydrate it. If anyone's thinking of dehydrating mince, you do need to cook it first. So I boil it. Again, that's another way to get the fat out of it, and it needs to be cooked all the way through. So no pink at all in any of the granules. Make sure it is brown all the way through before you put it in the dehydrator. But dehydrated mince is so convenient, so convenient. Right, now I'll put back over here. Oh gosh. Sorry, just checking. Okay, mango salad. We're still working on the planner die. It's a nightmare. Oh, Campbell's soup's changed. Okay. Homemade tomato soup's really easy. You can do it from tinned tomatoes if you want to, but tomato paste. Put some tomato paste, and you can use stock, or you can use half water, half stock, or you can use half water, half milk, just like you do for tinned soup, and just mix it until it is the consistency you want. Salt and pepper. It's pretty easy to do homemade tomato soup. All right. So dehydrated foods, keep them oxygen as much as possible out of their way, because that will shorten their shelf life. Keep light out of their way. That will shorten their shelf life. That's hard to say. And moisture. Make sure no moisture is in, because moisture will definitely shorten a shelf life. It will send it moldy, and nobody wants to take the time to prepare food, to dehydrate it, to put it in the pantry, only to go to use it and find it moldy. That's just awful. If you don't have a vacuum sealer, you can get some oxygen absorbers. They're just little parcels you put in the container of food before you put the lid in. You can get them on Amazon. You can buy them. Look online. You can get them all over the place. Check your prices. They're not overly expensive, and if you're putting it in to seal something up to keep it for a while, it's an investment. Just one thing: never vacuum seal sugar. never vacuum seal sugar. It turns into a brick. It turns into a brick so hard a pickaxe won't go through it. It is solid. It won't dissolve. It is so hard. But otherwise, just simple things to keep your food in tip-top shape for as long as possible. And remember, like you do with anything, it needs to be rotated. So first in, first used. You buy, if I was to do more peas, corn, and carrots, this would come to the front of the shelf. The other one will go to the back of it. If you're planning on storing your bottled or dehydrated preserves for more than 12 months, it may be worth considering some sort of storage routine and using routine, writing them into your meal plan or whatever. Because remember, your pantry is to be used. Yes, we want it to last us for however long if we need it to, but we still need to use it all the time. And that also helps. Using it also helps to keep things fresh. Now, the most popular, I know you will be blown away by this, but the most popular way of preserving food in Australia is freezing. Go figure. Now, you all know I have been moving away from freezer storage to more shelf-stable food storage for a couple of years now. And I'm slowly becoming less reliant on the freezer. Thank goodness. And people always say, why? Because it's so easy. It's so convenient to just put things in the freezer and pull them out, let them thaw, and then it's ready to go. And it is convenient. But we had a blackout a few years ago, and this was the real light bulb moment for me. We have a lot of money sitting in our freezers. And if the power goes out for any length of time, keeping those freezers frozen becomes a bit of an issue. Can you just imagine the panic and the work to get everything in a thawed freezer, cooked or canned or dehydrated before it did actually go off? Because once it's frozen and thawed, it needs to be used or it'll go off. It would be a nightmare. It will be bad enough with just one freezer. But I've got three. I have three freezers. They are packed full. Well, one's only half full now because we're slowly getting through them. It would be a nightmare. I would be going flat chat, canning, water bathing, dehydrating, cooking for days to get through it, just because of the investment in those freezers. And I'm betting there's a lot of money in your freezers too. So even though if you can claim it on your insurance, it's a bit of a trial. And then you can't actually claim back your time and the effort that you put into preparing the schnitzels, cooking the casseroles, shredding the zucchini or whatever that's in there. You'll never get all the value back. The other thing is power's not getting cheaper. It's officially up 20% this year alone. Officially now up 20%. So I'm rather hoping that if I can turn at least one off, that's going to help the power bill or our power consumption, because it seems the less we use, the more it costs. How's that for logic? But freezing is really popular, and it makes sense because it's really quick, it's easy. Frozen food, it extends food's useful life by a long time. And as long as your freezer's kept around or a bit below minus 18 Celsius, the foods in it are going to stay safe to eat indefinitely. Did you hear that? Keep your freezer at or below minus 18 Celsius, and the foods in it will stay safe to eat indefinitely. The quality will decrease when frozen for an extended period of time if it's not packaged properly. So it might change flavour or colour or texture, might lose a little bit of nutritional value. So, even with your frozen foods, shelf life is still really important, and how it is stored in the freezer is really important. Now, when it comes to freezing, Oxygen is your enemy. Air is your enemy. It is the food's enemy. You need to remove as much oxygen as possible from each package for the best possible freezer storage outcome. So take meat. It's probably the most commonly frozen food in an Australian kitchen. Depending on the type of meat, it could retain its quality anywhere from a couple of months to a year. So you've got roast, steak, chicken. They're the things that will keep longest. Chicken and turkey pieces, they'll retain their quality for up to 9 months. These are the official time frames. Now, mince, they say, doesn't last as long, and of course your sliced deli meats don't keep as long. Hams, your pastramis, that sort of thing. I don't freeze sliced pastrami. When I do a pastrami, I freeze the whole thing and slice it when we're ready to use it. And I think it's because they're smaller. If they were bigger pieces, they'd probably last longer. And anything like bacon or fish, they say 3 months. Sausages or liver, what do they call it? Lamb's fry, kidneys, anything like that, 2 months. They're the official time frames. Now, if you vacuum seal them and you remove all the air, you can easily double the official freezer life of those foods. Now, again, the timelines are guides. They're just guides for keeping food in the best possible condition when it's been frozen, thawed, and cooked. And we all like that. If you vacuum seal your freezer food, if you pack it into a container and you pack it full so there is as little as possible air in the container, and if you burp it, remember the old Tupperware thing they used to do, burp the lids to get as much air as possible out. If you can't vacuum seal it, that will help it stay safe from freezer burn. Freezer burn isn't going to hurt you. It doesn't mean the food is bad. It just changes the texture. It can make it really inedible. So avoiding freezer burn, which is caused by oxygen in the packaging, will extend the life of your freezer or your frozen foods. You still need to remember, though, that the colour, the texture might change if it's a casserole or a soup that's heavily seasoned. The flavour will change. It's still safe to eat. It might just look ugly. Frozen fruits, shelf life for those, frozen fruits and veggies, it varies by type. Now, the official thing on vegetables, up to a year, fruits for up to 6 months. The exceptions, capsicum and tomatoes, and they say they should be used within 4 months. But again, if you vacuum seal them, you can safely double the freezer life, the official freezer life. And the same rule applies to your fruit and veg as it does to your meat and poultry. Oxygen's the enemy. Remove as much oxygen as you possibly can, and you reduce the risk or eliminate the risk of freezer burn. Your food will stay in tip-top perfect shape for much, much longer. Now, there's a lot of resources in the Members Centre for knowing how to store your food properly and how long it will be safe to eat. And you can log in and just use the search at the top of the screen. I might add some links below if I remember about it. Just remember to be logged in so you can access them. So, know how long your food is safe on the shelf. It's a lot longer than we are led to believe. I'm not really sure why. Well, I look, you know, we could throw out theories, couldn't we? We could say, well, it's a marketing ploy, and I tend to think that it is. It's a ploy to get us to be less self-sufficient by keeping our pantry stocked and more reliant on supermarkets to keep us fed. That could be it too. I don't know. But honestly, use your common sense. If you're not sure, if in doubt, throw it out. Don't even give it to the dog. If it's not fit for you to eat, it's not fit for your dog to eat. But use your common sense. Use your eyes, use your nose, use your tongue. Taste it. If it looks odd, if it smells odd, if it tastes odd, throw it out. Compost it. About the only time I'll tell you to put food in the compost is compost it. All right, now we've gone past 8:30. I do apologize. Thank you for sticking with me this far. If you are not already subscribed to our channel, I would be so honored if you would click that subscribe button below me. There's lots of people that watch our videos, but they're not subscribers. If you click the little bell, you can choose how often you'd like to be notified of a new video or when we go live again. And may I ask that if you like this show, thumbs up. Those thumbs up, they help me to plan future shows, but they help our ratings with YouTube too. And lastly, if you know someone who might like this show or who might benefit from knowing about the Cheapskates Club, there's a share button to send them a link. That's all they'll get. We do not harass them. We don't send them anything. We don't contact them in any way. So there's 3 things: like, subscribe, and share. They all help to make our channel easy to find. And the easier it is to find us, the easier it is to spread the message that it is absolutely possible to live life debt-free, cashed up and laughing, even in today's crazy world. If you're going to leave us now, see you next week. And now the official business is over. So I'm going to flip back over to the chat and scroll through the questions and see what everyone's up to. All right, now let me go right back up here. Hi, where am I? I need to learn to make homemade tomato soup. Where did I see that? No, I need to. There we go. Okay, now, do you reuse oxygen absorbers from vitamin tablets, bought dry foods, etc.? You can try. You do need to. For your long-term food storage, don't. They won't be as effective. They just won't be as effective because they've absorbed the oxygen. So unless you've got a way of sucking the oxygen out of them again, they're not going to be as effective. But you can put them in other things if you want to. I have put them in jars of dried flowers and things like that. But I won't use them in food. Put them on the dash of the car. That's a good idea. Yeah, Trina's moved to oldest home canned items to the pantry. Rotate. First in, first out. There you go, Hillbilly Kitchen on YouTube. She's been around for a long time. Makes a beautiful tomato soup. The cat litter's a moisture absorber too, not an oxygen absorber. Yeah. Having a generator on hand for your freezers just makes sense. It's an investment. They are not cheap, but it does just make sense. You don't need to run them very long, probably 15 minutes out of every hour and a half would be enough to keep your freezer frozen. So you don't need to run them very long, but it's an investment in your security. It does make sense. Moisture absorbers from the silica. Moisture absorbers. It's the stuff that's in damp rid. You can buy damp rid at hardware stores and things like that. You can get it in containers. You can get them in little sachets and stuff like that. I use it in our camper when it's in storage, just in case. Put them in your wardrobe. I remember when I first moved to Sydney years and years ago, and it was raining when I got there. Little did I know that it always rains in Sydney. Horrible place, like all it does is rain. It rained for 6 weeks straight, and I put my shoes away. Now I had leather shoes, I had leather handbags, leather belts, put all my shoes away. And after about a week, I went to get a pair of shoes to go out, and they had mildewed from the humidity in the air. And I just sat on the floor of the wardrobe and cried. So ever since then, I've been very conscious of making sure there's damp moisture absorbers everywhere. Keep your freezer full as it stays frozen much longer. A full freezer won't start to thaw for at least 48 hours if it's absolutely packed solid full. If you have gaps, fill it with bottles of water. If you don't have bottles of water, scrunched up newspaper is good. If you don't have scrunched up newspaper, old books, stack old books in to fill the gaps, or ripped up cardboard to fill the gaps will work. Just be aware that they will go soggy when they come out, so you will need to put them in the sun to dry. Anything to fill the gaps. Keep the air out so that everything stays much frozen much longer. All right, because right now, keeping our freezers full, keeping our fridges full, keeping our pantry full, I just think, guys, I did a little investigating today. I was curious, and I wanted to see how much Australia imported, or what we imported from Israel. I had this thing in the back of my mind. I remember when I had babies, and I would very occasionally buy a packet of wipes, and they always came from Israel, and it just astounded me that we are in Australia, seriously, and we were importing baby wipes. So I did some more looking today on that. Where was it? Huggies come from Singapore. Huggies baby wipes are imported from Singapore. And I think it was, oh no, I don't want to say it because I'm probably going to be wrong. I think it was the Aldi ones, the Mamiya ones came from Taiwan, but the Cub wipes from Coles are made in Australia. So I found that was interesting. But what do we import from Israel? Well, There's quite a lot. Plastic, nuclear reactors, boilers, optical, photo lenses and stuff like that, medical apparatus. I was aware of that. I did know that we imported those things. Electronic equipment, pearls, precious stones, metal, coins. That coins had me quite interested because that's like $36.4 million worth. That's a lot. Fertilizer, other chemical type products, pharmaceutical products, miscellaneous edible preparations. I'm not reading you the whole list. Arms and ammunition. Seriously? Why are we not making these things here? The other thing that blew my mind away, aluminium. Hello? So we send the ore overseas and buy it back. Organic chemicals, soap, candles, glue, photographic and cinematography goods, grains, seeds, footwear. Yes, I was aware of that. What was that one then? Cutlery. Beverages, spirits and vinegar. Copper. I've lost it. Clocks and watches. That was an interesting one too. Aircraft. Glass and glassware, zinc. Nickel. Ceramic products. All sorts of things that we import from Israel. And that had me thinking, well, crikey, you know, the war over there, the situation over there is going to put a halt to their exporting. We don't, you know, I mean, really? It's quite a bit. It's about $1 billion a year of stuff that we import from Israel. So it's not nothing. It's a lot when it's all added up. But if they don't, if they can't export, we can't import, that's going to create more of a strain here, as if we don't have enough. So I was looking at, I didn't know why we'd import coins, Estelle. I don't know why we import anything. Seriously, if we can grow it here, if we can make it here, if it can be manufactured, produced, created, invented here, we shouldn't be importing. And if we are importing, the import should not be cheaper than what is made here. It's just ridiculous. So it was really interesting because I was thinking then, I actually want to know how it would affect me if it was going to be like, because I don't use baby wipes. Well, no, that's not true. I do when we go camping. I use baby wipes. But I will be switching to the Coles ones, to the Cub ones from Coles. Just in terms of coming up to the end of the year, I'm seriously looking at the stockpile and the kit pantries and different things, going over different things. I wanted to know how it might affect me. So I was interested in that. It's growing. military is small. It might be mighty, but it is also mighty small. In terms of active duty, it is really small, really, really small. I think we should be minding our own business. That's not to say we should not be aware of what's going on. We should not be outraged, because we should, as a nation and as individuals, we should be outraged at all involved, because it's gone beyond political. It's now just evil. It's gone beyond political. It is now just evil. It's beyond greed. It is just evil now. I was a bit confused about PB moving his big bath toys to the Mediterranean and siding with because and going up again. So I'm thinking, but they just gave money to it doesn't make sense. It's just like, and I always say follow the money, in terms of follow the money and you will find out who's pulling the strings, who's going to be the puppet master, who's pulling the strings, who's really in control. But this one is just really, really weird. Really, really weird. Seems like the next big what though? No, we're going to have a war. Yes, we are, because you know what? People are people. People are greedy. People are arrogant. People are selfish. People think that they are more important than anyone else. So we're going to have a war. That's it. It will happen. It's happening now. And who didn't see this coming? There were people that were predicting this when Russia-Ukraine started 2 years ago. There were people predicting this and saying this would happen. And it's happened. But, you know, how about the depression that we are in? And I know that's not the official word. Seriously, folks, look around. Think about it. Have a look at it. Our stock exchange for the first time went up for the first time in how many days today, and it only went up 1%. Big deal. 1%. It's been going down. It's just downed for weeks. Look at inflation. Look at the cost of putting a roof over your head, whether you are paying a mortgage or renting. It is ridiculous. Just ridiculous. To say that we are not in a depression. There are people who can't put food on the table. There are people who are working 2 jobs, who have, households with 2, 3 incomes coming in, who still struggle to pay the bills. When your power bill goes up 20%, your usage may have dropped, but you've still gone up 20%. That is just ridiculous. That is greed, pure and simple. That is just greed. And no, it is not to do with global warming. It is nothing to do with that. It is nothing to do with moving us towards renewables. It is greed, pure and simple. Absolutely just greed. It might not be a popular thought and a popular viewpoint, but it's mine. And it is just greed. People are just greedy. Now, businesses are in business to make money. That's what they're supposed to do. are supposed to make money, but they are not supposed to cripple their customers while they make that money. Because if they eventually cripple the customers to the point where they just can't afford it anymore, they're not going to make any more money. Greed and ignorance. There we go. And that's just a very basic on it. Kylie says we use Ziploc bags filled with water as a layer under all the food and on top of the food in each drawer to keep everything full to the brim. Yes, great idea. Great idea. Now, before we bought our fridge for our camping fridge, we had an ice box. And what I did was I froze, they were probably about 2 centimeters thick, Ziploc bags, about 2 centimeters thick of water. But I vacuum sealed the bags so they wouldn't leak. And they were our permanent ice bricks. They worked really, really well. They would work well in your freezer too. Although if you wanted to get the water out or the ice out, then you'd have to open the Ziploc. But we didn't with our ice box. We didn't. They just stayed as permanent, frozen, solid little bricks of ice. We'd take them away, bring them home, put them back into the freezer. When we were ready to go, they'd go back into the ice box. Manufacturing wouldn't cost too much money if imports weren't cheaper than what we can bring in, what we can make. If we only imported what we couldn't provide for ourselves at a lower cost and made anything that we could make ourselves more expensive, it wouldn't be an issue. And I know there's trade agreements and yada, yada, yada. I don't care. It's not my job to make sure another country gets rich. It's my job to look after my family, to make sure that there are jobs for my children and my potential grandchildren. It's to make sure that they can afford to put roofs over their heads, to own their own home eventually, to educate themselves if they want to further their education, to live a decent Australian life. And that's being eroded. That is being taken away from us from sheer greed. Okay. Oh, lost my place. Sorry, guys. Trina says we have a manufacturing business, and yes, it is expensive. We could do it cheaper if we imported, but we won't do that. It's really interesting. I asked a question. I actually fronted up at the business. A question was asked about steel, about a particular steel product a few years ago now, and someone said, oh, it was under this Australian brand, but the steel was Chinese and it was actually made in China and just painted here in Australia. And I went, yeah, I won't be happy if I've just paid a lot of money for my whatever. And I just said to this guy, I'm going to go and ask them. And I did. I fronted up. I went to the business and I walked in and I said, I would like to know where the steel in my came from. And he just looked at me and he said, what do you mean? I said, where did the steel that you used to make my particular item, where did that come from? And he went, Australia. And I said, really? He said, yes. He said, this was the key phrase for all the steel we use is Australian. They did manufacture other things using Chinese steel. And I said, that's really poor, simply because this company was built a reputation of being small family business, small, privately owned family business using Australian, manufacturing in Australia, using Australian steel. So I was really disappointed. I was glad I had Australian steel in mine. But anyway, I ended up getting a tour of the whole, because the poor fellow then made the mistake of saying, well, look, that's it. Thank you for asking. Really lovely of you to come in. Would you have time to, would you have time to do a tour? And I said, when? He said, oh, right now. We could fit it right now. I said, perfect. I've got all the time in the world. And off I went and had a tour. I have to say, I was really impressed. And we do still do business with that particular firm. But we have the ability to produce the world's best steel here. And we don't. And that is criminal, because we send the raw materials overseas and we bring it back, and we still pay the premium for it. We still pay a premium price for those products. It is wrong. It should not be allowed. We should not be allowed to import anything that we can make, grow, produce, manufacture, create, dream here. Should not be cheaper to be imported. It just should not be. Trina, I pray your business will stay strong. Just be careful what you import from New Zealand, because it might come from New Zealand, but where does it come from to get to New Zealand? Oh, that's terrible. That's really sad, Kylie. I don't know. Okay, do you think, I'm speaking to Kylie because she's obviously got experience with this. My experience with Defence Force is limited to some extended family members. Is it because we show absolutely no respect for our defence personnel? Because I look around and I don't know, we do not seem to respect our soldiers, our sailors, our Air Force men and women. We don't respect them. There's very little. We don't seem to have pride in our Defence Force. We have a brilliant. Like I said, our Defence Force is small, but it is mighty. We do not seem to have pride in that. Do you think that is part of the problem? I know there's a lot of internal issues in terms of support and pay and conditions, but I don't know. I have a friend whose daughter is in the Navy. I have other friends whose son is in the Navy. I have a couple of cousins in the Army. Do we just not seem to have, do they not get the support from the Australian population that they should? Yeah, I think we're all a bit Outback 6. I think we're all a bit nervous. just feel a bit sick. I just feel a bit sick. It's the situation in the Middle East, it's just, it's volatile. It is just, and not from how it can, not even from how it could possibly hurt me, and there are ways it could, but it just is, I think, how evil do you have to be to gun down 261 people at a concert? How evil do you have to be to take mothers with babies in their arms and hold them hostage, use them as human shields, and say that you will shoot them on video? How evil do you have to be? I just am, I struggle. I don't understand it, and I struggle to even try to understand it. I don't get. I just don't get war. If you have something and I don't, and I like it, I might say, gee, that would be nice if I had it. I'm not going to take it off you. I'm not going to force myself into your home and by force take it off you. I would never do that. I wouldn't think of doing that. And yet you've got these people in power or positions of power, or who think they're in positions of power, who do that. They go, I want that mountain, so I'm just going to take it. And they just destroy everything in their way to do that. I don't get that. I don't get that. I really struggle. I really, really struggle with that. And yes, just keep preparing. We just we just don't stop. But we've been saying that for a long time, haven't we, guys? Just don't stop. Just keep preparing. Just do what you always do. Keep preparing. Kylie, that is exactly it. Power consumption dropped by a third. Bill went up by $25 a fortnight. Tell me that is not greed. That is not trying to switch anyone to an alternative source of power. That is just greed. We will eat bugs. Did you see? I'll share it on Cheapskates Chatter. I put a little thing up tonight. Let me see if I can find it and read it to you about bugs, eating bugs. It was hilarious. Not as in hilarious, ha, but hilarious in that. It was from it's called Studies on Bugs. Eating bugs is bad for you, according to the NIH, National Library of Medicine. Studies on bugs, 2017 study on chitin in bugs provoke human innate immunity to generate a deluge of inflammatory cytokines which injure organs, leading to asthma, atopic dermatitis, and in persistent situations lead to death via multiple sclerosis, systemic lupus, cancer, etc. 2019 study on how eating insects transmits dangerous parasites to humans and animals. And it went on. How, seriously, I'm not going to eat a bug. I'm not going to eat a bug. I know years ago, Sanitarium used to use cochineal in their foods. Cochineal comes from a bug. That red food color in cochineal is from the cochineal bug. And when it was realized that it was from a bug, it was removed from all their products straight away, which did actually improve the products a little because they didn't look quite so glaringly red. But it was interesting that people had no idea that cochineal, and people still don't, cochineal comes from a bug. That red food colouring cochineal is from a bug. Was that the start of making us eat bugs and be happy? Own nothing and be happy? I don't want to own nothing and be happy. I just like to own what I work for what I earn, and then I'll be happy. I don't need to have what everyone else has. I don't need to have more than anyone else or the same as anyone else. I just want to have what I earn, and I will be happy. Oh, Jane, that is heartbreaking. That is just heartbreaking to think that you've got a young mum. She's got 2 little babies, and she's got to go back to work earlier just to pay the mortgage. If she wanted to go back to work earlier because she wanted to, that I have to say that's very different to being forced back just to keep a roof over your family's head. That is just disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. Yeah, Australian made doesn't necessarily mean that it is actually all Australian made. Hannah looked at something. What was she looking at? She bought something over the weekend. And on the front, it had, made in Australia. There you go. When she turned around, it was actually only 18%. The content was only 18% Australian, and it was packaged in Australia, not actually made in Australia. Big difference, Just atrocious. That would have been sad and very hard to go through. Very, very hard to go through. Trade agreements. I think trade agreements should be blown out of the water. No. And if it's called a free trade agreement, definitely blow it out of the water. Sorry, no. Our government seems to like to put us in a trade agreement where we lose. Doesn't matter which government it is, whatever trade agreement it is, we always end up losing. Australia loses. The rest of the world must laugh when they see them coming. Just hilarious. Thanks, Kylie. Kylie says yes to my question I asked. Is it because we don't show respect? And I guess it's not that we don't show. We also not only don't show respect, but our government doesn't respect our defence personnel. So I wonder who they'll want to come protect them in Canberra when we're invaded. It's atrocious. Jane, I'm so sorry for that. I have a friend whose son is in a similar situation. He's been waiting a lot longer. And he was actually hurt on active duty. Interesting. So many misconceptions about ADF. People think our housing is free. It's not. No, of course it's not. I lost half a shipping. How can you lose a half a shipping container? Seriously, Kylie, that's atrocious. That is just how? Like someone went and it just vanished? That's just ridiculous. And surely if they delivered it somewhere to the wrong address, someone would realise this isn't our stuff. Where's our stuff gone? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't, Estelle, I don't know about, well, it might be faithful, I don't know about good. It does not make sense to me. I really struggle to understand war. I struggle to understand violence. I just don't. It confuses me, just confuses me. I don't understand it at all. I don't understand how Vladimir Putin could sit in Russia and go, you know what, I really like the color of the grass in Ukraine. I think we'll just take it, and send in his army and take it. I don't understand that. I keep waiting for it to happen here. We are a very, very wealthy country in terms of natural resources, and I keep waiting for that to happen here. Someone's going to go, you know what, I don't want to pay for it anymore. Just barge in and take it. Let's just barge in and take it. And we can't stop them. We will not be able to stop them. I don't know. It just confuses me. I had an officer tell my husband if he was supposed to have a family, it would be an issue to you. Do you know his wife? Don't send me her name. I'll fix him. I can have a quiet word. I'm not afraid. I don't have to bring your name into it. Oh my goodness. I do. How insulting. We were told when we were getting our first mortgage, we were told that we already had one baby, and I was pregnant with number 2, and we were looking to buy another house. And the bank manager sat across from us and said, well, then you'd better do something about that baby you're expecting. He said, because you can't have 2 children. And I went, excuse me? He said, you'll need to get rid of it. Means you can't have 2 children. He said, you might be able to cope with 1, but you're not going to be able to manage a mortgage with 2. So we don't do business with that bank either. I'm not eating any bug that isn't kosher. Sorry. Thank you. That's made me laugh, Estelle. To the NHI on NIH, what is it? NIH. I'll have to look it up. I've got a clip of it. I'll look it up for you, Estelle. Yeah, because I think my comment was, well, someone should tell Klaus and Bill, and then I thought, well, maybe that's part of their plan, convert everyone to bugs and then kill them off with MS or lupus. They're too slow. They would need something faster. Cancer, they need something faster than that, so they'll have to come up with something else. Bye, Trina. Have a great week. Yeah. Really interesting, isn't it, that even in 2023 or whenever those comments were made to Beverly and Kylie's husbands, there's an arrogance, isn't there? There's a certain a lack of respect for the men under them. Yeah. Well. Yeah, I know both of them think the world are overpopulated. That's why they want us to eat bugs. That's why they're trying to put us all onto bugs so that we don't eat meat and blah, 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 and more room for people, blah, blah, blah. But that's their secret way of killing us all off. All right, 9:21, folks. Have you all had enough? I will do that link for Estelle. Make a note. It's been nice chatting to you. I do enjoy it. Thumbs up would be lovely, folks, if you are happy to. If you're not already subscribed, again, you know, I like to see subscribers. It subscribing lifts our profile on YouTube, and we're only a little teeny tiny channel. There's huge big channels out there. We're a little teeny tiny channel, but we're an Australian channel, and I like to think that we talk about Australian issues and how to live debt-free, cashed up in Australia as best we can. So subscribers help to lift our profile, and it's easier for people to find us. The more people that find us, the more people might have an opportunity, even if they just save $1 a day, that's $365 a year that they might be able to use for a month's worth of groceries. So, you know, those little, oops, there goes a little tiny spider up my wall. Those, just hitting that little subscribe button doesn't cost anything, but it really does help our channel. I will be away for a few days. We are heading off. I said to Wayne, we need to change weekends, because it was this weekend last year that we had to remember, or this coming weekend last year, horrific rain and flooding, and it took us 7.5 hours to do a 2-hour trip, and it was just awful. Well, we're repeating the trip this weekend, and of course, what have they done? Tomorrow is gorgeous, and then rain and cold. So wish us luck. Packed with gumboots, so I should be fine. Anyway, I'll be back next week with another show for you, another live show for you. But until then, happy cheapskating. See you soon. Bye.